Hi, welcome to our first week of The Artist's Way. I am a Catherine Noon, or Noonie, and I'll be your hostess. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what the introductory week of Writers and Gardens Artist's Way cluster looks like. So The Artist's Way, for those of you that aren't aware, is a book by Julia Cameron. It is available in an ebook format or a paper book. You will need this book to go through the workshop, so get it at your library or pick up a copy for yourself at your favorite bookseller. So what's going to happen throughout the Artist's Way is each week we're going to have readings on various aspects of creativity. The first one will be discovering a sense of safety, and then it goes into identity and power, integrity, possibility, things like that. So over time we're going to learn some tools that will help uncover buried dreams that we might have had, or ideas for artistic projects that we may want to tackle. And we'll also deal with the fact of where you create an idea for something and then get completely overwhelmed, like, oh my God, what was I thinking? I can't do that. So it'll help you sort of navigate the ups and downs of reconnecting with your own creativity. So what I want you to do this week is take a look at the introduction, spiritual electricity, or the basic principles, and then the basic tools. This will kind of acquaint you with how the course works and what Julia Cameron talks about. One thing I want to say that's come up sometimes in the past clusters that we've done is people have asked about the idea of deity or God. In this book, she does a better job of being open-ended about what that means, meaning not naming any particular religious figure. In some of her later books, she's more willing to shorthand directly to the word God. And it doesn't necessarily mean a patriarchal Christian concept of God. It means whatever your particular connection with deity, the Tao, whatever that might be for you. And you do not need to have a religious connection in order to benefit from this. Just simply do the tools and record the results, and be willing to accept the idea that there might be something out there that is benevolent toward us and toward our creativity. And that's all you need to do. You don't need to have any kind of religious conversion process to go through this material. So in the introduction, she talks about what creative unblocking is and what her own journey was about. And then in spiritual electricity, she will get involved in discussing what I just mentioned, this idea of being partnered and of being willing to try and put things out into the universe and then accept back the support from the universe that we will get in return. She has something called the basic principles. And it might not be a bad idea to either photocopy or print these out for yourself and sort of reread them each day and see if there's any shifts in your own belief patterns. And she talks about what to expect in the course and how to handle the tasks. I do want to tell the left brain sequentials among you that you do not need to do every task every week. I'll say that again. You don't need to do every task every week. You might have a week where you do all of them. You might have a week where you don't do any of them. You're lucky to read the material and do your morning pages and maybe squeeze in an artist date. That's okay. That really is okay. Keep going. It's more important to build the momentum. It's not good to say, oh, well, I didn't finish my task for week 1, so I'm going to stay on week 1 indefinitely until I finish them. Don't do that. If you see tasks that you want to do and week 1 is over, fine, circle back and hit them later, but don't stop. Keep going. The momentum is more important. The basic tools talk about the morning pages and the artist date, and I would like to add a basic tool. She doesn't really talk about it as such, and she doesn't introduce it until week 1, but that's the check-in. So there are 3 tools that I want you to become acquainted with. One is the morning pages, which will be done daily. The artist's date, which is typically done weekly unless you're working at really high velocity, in which case she recommends doing maybe 2 a week. And then the check-in, and that'll be done every week. Now, I run my weeks from Sunday to Saturday, so I plan to do my reading on Sundays. and I sketch in a couple of the the tasks. And then on Saturday is my wrap week, so I look back at the week, see how many days I did my morning pages, did I do my artist date, how do I feel, is there anything important going on for me? And I do this in writing in my journal. So about the journal. Get yourself a shitty journal. Don't use a really pretty one with a nice picture of a goddess on the front that you're going to want to put really deep thoughts in. Don't do that to yourself. Go to the school supplies at the dollar store or the drugstore and just pick up a really inexpensive spiral bound notebook and just use that. Don't worry about whether it needs to look formal. If you're in a house with children or curious spouses or roommate situation, you're going to want to keep your morning page private. You do not share this with anybody ever. So you want to keep it in your purse or your backpack, briefcase, whatever. Keep it in a drawer, locked, whatever you need to do to protect yourself, do that. So the morning pages, what is that? Those are 3 pages of longhand writing done in the morning. And I will tell you that for me, the first couple times that I did the Artist's Way process, I am not a morning person. And so I would do basically night pages. I got a lot out of it. One year I decided to be really orthodox in my approach. And so I got up early every morning and I did my morning pages. I got a lot out of it. You're going to get a lot out of doing the pages, regardless of what time of day you do them. I saw Julia Cameron speak in 2008, and one of the people in the audience actually asked her, "Hey, Julia, why morning pages?" And she said, well, it's because the day hasn't started yet, and you have a chance to affect change and make different decisions throughout the day once you've done your morning pages. Now, some people might argue that you could do that at night and then make different changes the next day. I think that's a valid argument, but it's useful to know kind of where she's coming from. What do you write? Writers actually find the morning pages hard to do because we want to write them. We want to be coherent, we want to make sense, we want to have the verb tense agree with the subject and have the right, is this first person, second person, third person, past tense, present tense. Don't worry about it. Write all of that. Misspell everything if you want to. It's 3 pages, period. Just keep your brain or your pen working on the page. Don't stop writing, just keep going. If you agonize and an hour goes by and you're still not at your 3 pages, fine. You gave it a good shot. But really give it a good shot. Turn off Facebook, turn off Twitter, turn off whatever your drug of choice is, and just focus on the pages. Talk to yourself. Start listening to yourself. That's what morning pages are for. If you want to put lists for things to do, go for it. If you want to bitch about your family member, spouse, whatever, do it. If you want to write down an idea for a story, fine, do that too. But don't work on a creative project during this time. This time is not for that. It's for getting all of the monkey mind chatter in your head out onto the page. The second tool is the artist date, and this is designed to be done by yourself. And she doesn't describe it in this book. She does in her second book, Walking in This World, that it could be done on a lunch break. And that helped me unhook a lot from my own inner critic of that's not a good enough date. So even if it's a lunch break at work, go out for a walk or go to the mall or do something that sounds interesting. Go to a local place of worship if you want to. Go check out the park and take pictures on your phone. Do something unusual that you don't usually do. The artist date is designed to be fun and playful. I find them hard, so they're very valuable when you can do them, but if you're experiencing resistance, that's totally normal. We will brainstorm here on the forum of ideas to take artist dates. For example, you could even do a coloring book. Dover Publisher has a bunch of relatively inexpensive books. And for example, I colored this one day on my artist date. I used to love coloring and I let myself do this. And of course, my inner critic was really nasty to me of like, oh, that's not really your drawing and it's childish and blah, 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 blah. Just ignore it. Put that stuff on the page if you need to. Yeah, okay, yeah, tell me more. And then just close the book and go back to coloring. That's the artist day. The third tool is check-ins. And what I want you to do is sit down and do this in your journal. Look back at the week and see what you did in terms of your artist or your morning pages. So write Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, blah, blah, blah. Check off the days you did it. Put a little X by the days you didn't. And then be honest with yourself. If you missed a day, why? Did someone cause a fight in the morning? Did you not get up in enough time? Were you not practicing good self-care? These things are all interesting and useful. And don't judge them. Just write them down. All we're after is being a detective here. We're not interested in being the moral police about, did you do your artist page or did you do your morning pages? Because the more that you can understand why you didn't, the more you can problem solve if it comes up again the next week. The next thing you're going to do is write down your artist date. If you took it, great. Where'd you go? What'd you do? How'd it feel? If you didn't take it, it's just as important to write that down and write down why. Did you get too busy? Why were you so busy that you couldn't take 1 hour for yourself? That's an important question to ask. It's uncomfortable, or at least it is for me, but it's useful to ask it. She's going to ask you to start looking at synchronicity, which is when the universe sort of falls in with your plans. For example, you're running to the bus and you're running, and the bus driver sees you and waits, and you get on the bus. Or what happened to me this past week, I was on the bus and a homeless man had a really cool magazine that was a free magazine, and he was asking for money, and I don't carry cash. And I told him that, and he said, well, you can keep the magazine anyway. I think you'll like it. And he didn't know this, but I had a collage class that night, so it was perfect timing. That's a prime example of synchronicity. And it can be little, it can be big, it can be all sorts of things, but it's more likely that you're going to have more of them if you're paying attention for them. And then finally, you want to write down anything that's important for your own creative recovery. And that might be that you realize you have a very negative family member that you have to deal with. Or your employment situation, you're working 80 hours a week and you have no time or energy for anything creative. Or, oh my gosh, I am finally making time for this creativity and all of a sudden I realize I want to be a piano player. Where'd that come from? Those are all important things to kind of engage with and begin to understand. So as we go forward, we will post more stuff on the forum, but I would like to personally welcome you for this session. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask me either on forum or send me a private message through Facebook or email me at noonie@akatherineyoon.com. Thanks. Love you guys. Mwah.